Okay, so get this. We're diving into the metaverse today.
Hmm.
You know, that whole living inside the internet thing.
Right.
It's either going to be amazingly cool or terrifyingly awful.
Yeah.
We're talking about escaping into a fully realized digital world, but what if that world,
Yeah.
what if it's not the escape we're hoping for?
Right. Right.
Luckily, we've got an episode of the podcast Alternative Worlds to guide us.
Okay.
Their episode titled The Dark Side of the Metaverse, Escapism or Enslavement.
Oh, interesting.
So I'm very curious to get into this.
Yeah, it's a fascinating topic, and that episode does a great job of, connecting the metaverse to this very human desire to escape, but it also digs into how that desire paired with technology could be manipulated in ways we haven't even begun to imagine.
Yeah, it's like, okay, so let's unpack that a little bit.
Okay.
For those of us who haven't, jacked in yet, what exactly the metaverse?
Right.
When I hear that word, I picture, those early VR games,
Yeah.
lots of blurry pixels and accidentally punching the wall.
Right. Right. Well, the experience itself will be far more immersive than those early VR attempts.
Okay.
The source describes it as a network of interconnected virtual spaces.
Okay.
And you're right, you'd use avatars to interact.
Right.
But here's the kicker. The metaverse will blend virtual reality, VR, A&D augmented reality, AR.
Okay.
So imagine wearing glasses that seamlessly overlay digital elements onto your real-world view.
Okay.
That's the blurry line they're talking about.
So instead of just putting on a headset and being transported to a completely different world, it's more like our real world becomes layered with the digital world.
Exactly. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Imagine attending a concert in your living room,
Uh-huh.
but instead of just watching it on a screen,
Right.
you're experiencing it in 3D with thousands of other virtual attendees.
Wow.
Or picture attending a work meeting where everyone feels like they're sitting in the same room, even if they're scattered across the globe.
Right.
That's the kind of potential they're talking about.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie, the idea of a virtual concert in my pajamas is pretty appealing.
Right.
But I'm also picking up on a but here, you know what I mean?
Right. And that's where we dig into the source material's focus on the potential downsides.
Okay.
It's not just about attending virtual concerts.
Right.
It's about the potential for these virtual spaces to become so enticing, so captivating, that we willingly choose them over our real lives.
We're talking like full-on digital escapism.
Precisely.
Okay.
And it's not necessarily a new concept. Think about how easily people get caught up in video games, social media, even just binge-watching TV.
Oh, yeah.
The metaverse could offer that same escapism, but amplified 1,000-fold.
So it's like, why deal with the stress of your job, your relationships, the real world,
Right.
when you can just slip into like a perfectly curated digital life?
And that's the danger.
Okay.
Neglecting your real-world responsibilities for this virtual existence.
Yeah.
The source uses the analogy of an addiction and argues that the metaverse could be even more addictive than anything we've seen before.
Well,
It's not just about the time we spend online.
right.
It's about the depth of that experience, the blurring of those lines between real and virtual.
So it's not just the metaverse itself that's potentially addictive. It's
Right.
that feeling of a perfect life that it can offer.
Yeah.
The customized avatars, the virtual mansions, the instant gratification.
You got it. And the more enticing that virtual life becomes,
Yeah.
the less appealing our real lives might seem in comparison.
Okay. I can see where this is going, and it's not looking good.
Yeah.
But this episode is about more than just escapism, right? This is where the whole enslavement part comes into play.
Right. And a big part of that comes down to control,
Mm.
to who holds the power in this new digital frontier.
So we're talking about the tech giants behind all of this.
Yeah.
The ones already like collecting our data and selling us stuff we don't need.
Exactly. And the source makes a chilling point. The metaverse will take data collection to a whole new level.
Wow.
We're not just talking about your likes, your clicks, your browsing history.
Uh-huh.
This is about tracking your every move, your every interaction, your every emotional response within a virtual environment.
Okay, now that is next level.
Right.
But how exactly could they use that data to influence us?
Okay, imagine this.
Okay.
You're having a bad day, feeling a little down on yourself.
Ah.
In the metaverse, algorithms pick up on your emotional state.
Oh, gosh.
And suddenly, you're being shown ads or even virtual experiences
Mm-hmm.
designed to exploit those insecurities.
Oh, wow.
You might think you're making your own choices,
Mhm.
but in reality, you're being nudged and manipulated every step of the way.
So it's like targeted advertising on steroids.
Yeah.
But instead of just selling us products, they're selling us experiences, emotions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And remember those filter bubbles we see on social media today?
Yeah.
The algorithms that keep showing us content that reinforces our existing beliefs and biases.
Right.
Imagine that on a much grander scale in the metaverse.
So we're talking about the potential for echo chambers, misinformation, and manipulation, but like amplified in this hyper-realistic virtual world.
Precisely. And that's just the tip of the iceberg.
I hate to say it, but this is starting to sound a lot less like Ready Player One and a lot more like, well, a Black Mirror episode.
Yeah. And we haven't even touched on the economic implications yet.
Oh, no.
Remember those virtual concerts you found appealing?
Yeah.
Imagine having to pay real money for virtual tickets, virtual food, virtual merchandise, even virtual real estate.
Okay, hold on. I'm
Huh?
still stuck on virtual food.
Right.
You mean like clicking a button and having a digital pizza appear in front of my avatar?
Yeah.
Who's actually buying that?
You might be surprised.
Right.
The source points out that virtual economies are already booming.
Wow.
People are spending real money on digital assets. Clothes for their avatars, tools to enhance their virtual experiences, even virtual land.
Okay, I get the appeal of a cool outfit for your avatar.
Right.
But virtual land.
Yeah.
What's the point of owning a virtual mansion if you can't actually live in it?
It's about status, exclusivity, and the potential for investment.
Okay.
Just like in the real world, owning property in the metaverse can be a way to display wealth. And many believe these digital assets will only increase in value over time.
So the metaverse could end up mirroring or even amplifying the wealth gap we already see in the real world.
That's the concern, yeah.
Wow.
The source argues that the metaverse has the potential to create a new class system where your digital wealth dictates your access to opportunities, experiences, and even social standing.
So instead of worrying about the digital divide in terms of access to the internet, we're talking about a divide within the internet itself.
Exactly.
Wow.
Imagine growing up in a virtual reality where you can't afford to travel to certain areas, attend certain events, or even interact with certain people because you don't have the right digital assets.
Yeah.
It's a whole new level of inequality.
And if the tech companies controlling these spaces are the ones setting the rules?
It's not hard to imagine those rules favoring the wealthy or those willing to spend more real-world money to get ahead in the virtual world.
Precisely. And it's not just about economic inequality.
Oh, no. What else?
The source also raises concerns about the potential for political manipulation and control within the metaverse.
Okay, now we're really going full dystopian here.
Right.
What, like governments using the metaverse to spy on citizens, censor information, even control what people see and experience.
Those are all possibilities the source wants us to consider.
Gosh.
Think about it. In a virtual world, governments could potentially monitor your every move, listen in on your conversations, even track your emotional responses to certain stimuli.
It's like that saying, if you're not paying for the product, you are the product.
Right.
But like take it to a whole new level.
Yeah.
Instead of just selling our data, they'd be controlling our entire virtual existence.
Exactly. And think about the potential for propaganda and misinformation.
Imagine attending a virtual rally where the information you're being fed, the people you're interacting with, even the very environment itself, is designed to sway your opinion or shape your beliefs.
It's like, how do you even know what's real anymore?
That's the very question the source leaves us grappling with.
Mm-hmm.
As we blur the lines between the physical and digital, the real and the virtual, it becomes increasingly difficult to discern truth from fiction, reality from carefully constructed narratives.
This whole conversation is making me want to unplug, go touch some grass, remind myself that there's still a real world out there.
And that's the key takeaway here.
Okay.
The metaverse, like any powerful technology, is a tool.
Right.
It has the potential to connect us, entertain us, even empower us, but it also has the potential to be misused, to manipulate us, to control us.
So what's the answer? Do we just abandon this technology altogether and run for the hills?
It's not about abandoning it. It's about approaching it with caution, with awareness, and with a healthy dose of skepticism. We need to be asking the tough questions about who's building this technology, what their motivations are, and what safeguards are in place to protect our privacy, our freedom, and our autonomy.
So it's like we're standing at the edge of this digital frontier,
Right.
and it's looking, I don't know, pretty daunting.
Yeah.
on one hand, amazing possibilities,
Right.
but on the other, a whole Pandora's box of potential problems.
Yeah.
This episode of Alternative Worlds really didn't pull any punches with its title, The Dark Side of the Metaverse, Escapism or Enslavement.
Yeah.
So after all of this, which one is it?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Right.
And the source doesn't really offer any easy answers.
Right.
It's less about, a clear cut either,
Okay.
and more about understanding that the metaverse, like so many technological leaps before it, is kind of a double-edged sword.
Right.
It has the power to be incredibly beneficial and incredibly detrimental, often at the same time.
So it's complicated, but this technology is being developed whether we like it or not.
Right.
So what can we actually do about all of this?
Yeah.
We just have to, cross our fingers and hope for the best.
So I think hope alone isn't enough,
Right.
This episode really argues that we need to be proactive in shaping the development of the metaverse.
Okay, so how do we do that?
Right.
Where do we even start?
It begins with awareness,
Mm-hmm.
which is exactly what this episode is trying to spark, right?
Yeah, okay.
The more we understand the potential pitfalls,
Right.
the better equipped we are to advocate for ethical design and responsible implementation.
Gotcha.
We need to be asking tough questions about data security, privacy, about regulations that prevent monopolies and protect user rights.
So it's not just on us as individuals to be careful about what we share or how much time we spend, plugged in.
Right.
It's about demanding better from the companies building these spaces.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
We need to hold these tech giants accountable for creating a metaverse that benefits society as a whole, not just their bottom line.
Right.
And that means demanding transparency about how our data is being used, pushing for regulations that prevent the metaverse from becoming a tool for manipulation or control,
Right.
and just fostering open discussions about the ethical implications of this technology.
So it sounds like we need a whole new digital literacy playbook.
Yes.
Not just for navigating the metaverse itself,
Right.
but for shaping the very rules by which it operates.
Exactly. We need to be thinking about things like digital citizenship, ethical design, and the societal impact of these emerging technologies.
Right.
And we need to be having these conversations, not just in tech circles,
Right.
but in classrooms, in boardrooms, in our everyday lives.
Yeah, it's got to be everybody.
Yeah.
This episode ends with, I think, a very powerful question. It says, as we build this new digital frontier, are we creating a space that empowers people or enslaves them?
Right.
And that's not just a question for the tech companies. It's a question for all of us.
Absolutely. And I think that's what makes this such a fascinating, albeit daunting topic to dive into, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the metaverse has the potential to reshape our world in profound ways. But the shape of that world is still being determined, right?
Right.
It's up to all of us to decide what we want that future to look like.
Yeah.
And to demand that it reflects our values.
It's a lot to think about, but as always, I think, the more informed we are, the better choices we can make, right?
Absolutely.
So next time you hear about the metaverse, remember, it's not just about the cool virtual experiences.
Yeah.
It's about the very real impact this technology will have on our lives, our societies, our future.
100%.
Well, that is a wrap on this deep dive into the metaverse.
Yeah.
It's a future that's both exciting and uncertain, full of possibilities and potential pitfalls.
For sure.
Thanks for exploring it with us today. And remember, the metaverse might be virtual,
Right.
but its impact on our world will be very, very real.
Couldn't agree more.